I'm going to be reading a selection of poems from a number of books. Next year, Copper Canyon Press is going to publish a book called The Redshifting Web, and it's going to assemble poems from my 5 previous books, plus a selection of new poems. So it's a particular pleasure to do a kind of a journey this evening, and to really start with a poem I wrote when I was 19 at Berkeley. Noah's Dove. The moon is black. Had I a bird, it would fly, beat the air into land, to remain or trust the silver leaves of the sea. What if I say what is? No bird, no land, the sea tossing its damp, wet fish on the bow, their lungs exhaling the sea, taking in moon air for the first time. This is the first extended poem, a sequence of poems that I wrote, and it's called The Leaves of a Dream, or The Leaves of an Onion. Red oak leaves rustle in the wind. Inside a dream, you dream the leaves scattered on dirt, and feel it as an instance of the chance configuration to your life. All night you feel red horses galloping in your blood, hear a piercing siren, and are in love with the inexplicable. You walk to your car, find the hazard lights blinking, find a rust-brown knife, a trout, a smashed violin in your hands. And then you wake inside the dream to find tangerines ripening in the silence. You peel the leaves of the dream as you would peel the leaves off an onion. The layers of the dream have no core, no essence. You find a tattoo of a red scorpion on your body. You simply laugh, shiver in the frost, and step back into the world. A Galapagos turtle has nothing to do with the world of the neutrino. The ecology of the Galapagos Islands has nothing to do with a pair of scissors. The cactus by the window has nothing to do with the invention of the wheel. The invention of the telescope has nothing to do with the red jaguar. No, the invention of the scissors has everything to do with the invention of the telescope. A map of the world has everything to do with a cactus by the window. The world of the quark has everything to do with a jaguar circling in the night. The man who sacrifices himself and throws a Molotov cocktail at a tank has everything to do with a sunflower that bends to the light.
You read the last poem in River River called The Unnameable River, and it asks questions in it. Is it in the anthracite face of a coal miner? Is it in a child naming a star? Et cetera, et cetera. That seems to me a very Taoist question and Taoist way of looking at the world, searching for that which can't be named, but which is the source and the mystery of the world. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that poem and a bit more about Taoism and how classical Chinese poetry might have influenced your work, be present in it.
I think just as background, I could say that for me, the structure of River River, or the structure of each of my books, I've tried to make distinctly different. And you can say a square has corners, but the Lao Tzu says a great square has no corners. That image of transcendence. Or if you think of the opening chapter of the Lao Tzu, Dao Ke Dao, Fei Chang Dao, Ming Ke Ming, Fei Chang Ming, Wu Ming Tian Di Zhi Shi, You Ming Wan Wu Zhi Mu. The Tao that you can talk about is not the immortal Tao. The name that you can name is not the immortal name.
Wu Ming, without a name. Tian Di Zhi Shi, it's the beginning of heaven and earth. You Ming, having a name. Wan Wu Zhi Mu, it's the mother of 10,000 things, of all the things that exist in the world. So right at the outset to the classic text of Taoism, there's this kind of boundary between the finite and the infinite. And in some ways, maybe I feel like I'm approaching from the opposite end. As a poet, you have to use words, you have to use language, but then you get to some kind of limit where the boundaries dissolve. And maybe that point that happens in that poem is just the kind of incantation where it's river, 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 and then there's a slight pause, river, river. It's kind of like somehow embodied there is that sort of touching the infinite. So maybe, I hope that helps answer your question in terms of sort of the influence of Taoism, but that sense of what can be named and what can't be named is, for me, it's very, very Taoist, and it's sort of, it's kind of a dialectic that's always there.
But the Chuang Tzu also says one shouldn't make the distinction between the this and the that, and the that and the this. I feel that's very much in your work too. Is this talking about oppositions and the lack of oppositions, the absence of oppositions, the absence of identities of certain things too. It's, so that it's not just a question of language, but a question of perception also.
I think that's true. One, again, that sort of opening image in the second section is, in a crude theory of perception, the apple you see is supposed to be a copy of the actual apple, but who can step out of his body to compare the two? You can't ever step out of your own life to have some kind of like objective, I don't know, view of your own life in the world and to be able to compare. You can never do that, but maybe you can hint at that, or that's one of the things that a poem works toward.